You won't believe what happened when a struggling single dad stopped to help a stranger on the side of the road. This one simple act of kindness changed both their lives forever. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Kindness Tales Live because you won't want to miss this story. Jason Thompson wiped the sweat off his forehead as he shifted the heavy load of groceries into his old, rattling sedan. Life had never been easy, especially after his wife passed away 2 years ago, leaving him to raise his 8-year-old daughter, Emily, on his own. Every day was a careful balancing act. Work, parenting, bills, and an endless list of responsibilities that seemed to grow heavier by the hour. Jason's job as a part-time mechanic barely covered the bills, and some days he wondered if he was failing at everything. But he had Emily, and that alone made every struggle worth it. It was a warm spring afternoon, and Jason decided to take Emily to the park for a little break from their routine. The sun glistened off the wet pavement from an earlier rain, and birds chirped as if nothing in the world could go wrong. But life has a way of surprising you, sometimes when you least expect it. As Jason approached the main road, he noticed a woman struggling beside a sleek black SUV. Her frustration was obvious. She was kneeling next to a flat tire, a phone pressed tightly to her ear, probably trying to call for help. Jason felt that familiar tug in his chest, the one that urged him to step in and help, even if it meant running late for everything else. He parked a safe distance away, grabbed his toolbox, and walked over. "Hey, need a hand?" he asked, trying to sound casual but masking the curiosity that bubbled inside. The woman looked up, her eyes wide and a little surprised, as if she hadn't expected anyone to stop. "Oh, yes, that would be wonderful," she said, her voice tinged with relief. As Jason set to work, loosening the lug nuts and carefully changing the tire, Emily watched with wide eyes from the car. She admired her dad's quiet confidence and skill. Despite their struggles, he always seemed to know what to do, how to make things right. "You know," Jason said, wiping his hands on a rag, "sometimes life just throws flat tires at you when you least expect it, but it's the people who stop to help that make all the difference." The woman smiled, a mix of gratitude and something else Jason couldn't quite place, and nodded in agreement. As the last bolt clicked into place, Jason stood back, breathing heavily but satisfied. The woman's smile widened and she extended her hand. "I don't even know your name." "I'm Miranda," she said. "Thank you so much. You really saved me today." Jason shook her hand, feeling an unexpected warmth at the simple human connection. "Jason," he replied, "just doing what anyone would do. My daughter and I are on our way to the park, but it's nothing really." Miranda's gaze softened, almost as if she wanted to say more but held herself back. Jason noticed a subtle elegance in her demeanor: designer clothes, polished shoes, the kind of poise most people only notice in magazines or on TV. Yet, there was something genuine in her smile, a vulnerability she couldn't quite hide. "You're too kind," she said softly, almost to herself. Jason shrugged. "Kindness doesn't cost a thing," he said with a small grin, trying not to reveal the exhaustion that often shadowed his life. Before he could walk away, Miranda reached into her bag and handed him a small envelope. "Consider this a little thank you. I insist." Jason shook his head, feeling awkward. "I really can't accept—" "Please," she interrupted gently. "Just take it." He hesitated, then accepted the envelope with a polite nod, sliding it into his pocket without opening it. As Jason and Emily drove off toward the park, he didn't know it yet, but this brief encounter would mark the beginning of a series of events that would forever alter the course of their lives. That single act of helping a stranger on the roadside, something he considered routine, was about to come back in a way he could never have imagined. Jason and Emily spent the next hour at the park, laughing on the swings and chasing each other around the flower-lined paths. For a brief moment, life felt lighter, as if the weight of bills, sleepless nights, and endless responsibilities had lifted just enough to let them breathe. Emily's laughter echoed through the trees, a sound Jason cherished more than anything else in the world. But even amidst the joy, Jason couldn't shake the encounter with Miranda from his mind. There was something unusual about her, something that lingered like a whisper at the back of his thoughts. Later that evening, after tucking Emily into bed, Jason sat at the kitchen table, the envelope from Miranda lying in front of him. He stared at it for a long time, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and guilt. He had never been a man driven by money. His life was modest, framed by hard work, simple joys, and sacrifices made for his daughter. But the envelope pulsed with the promise of a story he didn't yet understand. Finally, with a deep breath, he opened it. Inside, there was a single note written in elegant handwriting and a small check. The note read, "For your kindness today. Consider this a token of appreciation. Call me if you need anything." Jason's eyes widened as he looked at the check. The amount was staggering. It was more money than he had ever seen in his life. Panic and disbelief collided in his chest. He felt a rush of emotion, gratitude, fear, and a tiny flicker of hope he hadn't felt in years. He couldn't help but think about what this money could do. Pay off bills, fix his car, finally repair the leaky roof of their tiny apartment. But more than that, he felt the weight of responsibility. This wasn't just a gift. It was a test of character. The next morning, Jason decided to return to the spot where he had helped Miranda, hoping to explain that while he was grateful, he couldn't accept such an enormous gift without truly understanding why. Emily, sensing his worry, held his hand and said, "Dad, it's okay. You helped her because it was right. That's all that matters." Her words, simple yet profound, reminded Jason why he did what he did. Not for money, not for recognition, but because it was the right thing. When Jason arrived at Miranda's office building, a sleek glass tower downtown, he was nervous. He wasn't used to this world of luxury and status, and the marble lobby made him feel like a character out of a movie. But the memory of her smile, genuine and warm, encouraged him to keep going. The receptionist directed him to her office, and moments later, he found himself face to face with the woman who had changed the trajectory of his week, and potentially his life. Miranda stood and smiled as he entered, a vision of calm elegance that contrasted sharply with the chaos of his life. "Jason," she said warmly, "I wasn't sure if you'd come." Jason swallowed hard. I wanted to make sure you know I appreciate the gesture, but I can't accept this money without knowing more. I don't want to feel like I'm taking advantage of anyone." Miranda's expression softened and she gestured for him to sit. "Jason, the check isn't about taking advantage of you. It's about recognizing what most people overlook, your kindness. In a world where so many ignore those in need, you stopped. You helped without thinking about what you'd get in return. That matters." As Jason listened, he realized that this wasn't about money at all. It was about connection, humanity, and trust. Miranda explained that she had recently sold part of her company and was trying to find ways to give back without patronizing people. She had watched him quietly, noting the care with which he treated Emily, the humility in his actions and the sincerity in his smile. Jason couldn't help but feel humbled, almost embarrassed by her words. He had done nothing extraordinary, just what anyone would do, but to her it meant the world. Before leaving, Jason shook Miranda's hand again, this time with a new understanding. This encounter wasn't just a random act of chance. It was the start of something bigger, something that could teach him and Emily that kindness has its own currency, often more valuable than money. And as he stepped out of the building, he felt a subtle shift in his heart, a mixture of hope, curiosity, and the thrill of unexpected possibilities. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions for Jason. Back home, life had returned to its usual rhythm, but the encounter with Miranda lingered in his mind like an echo he couldn't ignore. Every time Emily laughed or asked about her day, he found himself distracted, thinking about the mysterious woman who had recognized his small act of kindness and rewarded it in a way he could never have imagined. He tried to focus on the simple joys of life, making breakfast, helping Emily with homework, and fixing the squeaky door hinge in their apartment. But the envelope and the memory of Miranda's words weighed heavily on his heart. Jason decided to call her, if only to express his gratitude again and perhaps understand more about her intentions. When she answered, her voice was warm and genuine, instantly putting him at ease. "Jason," she said, "I was hoping you'd call. I want to talk to you about something important." They agreed to meet at a quiet cafe near the river, a place where the afternoon sun reflected off the water in golden streaks. Jason arrived early, nerves twisting in his stomach. He wasn't used to mingling in environments where the aroma of artisanal coffee and soft music filled the air. His world was more grounded in grease, engine oil, and the steady hum of machines. When Miranda arrived, she carried herself with the same elegance and poise he had noticed before. but there was also a warmth in her smile that softened the distance between their very different lives. "Jason, I wanted to explain why I did what I did," she began, settling into her chair. "I've built a business, a life, a fortune, but I realize that wealth without humanity is empty. When you helped me, you reminded me that kindness still exists in its purest form. That's why I wanted to give back to you in a meaningful way." Jason listened intently, feeling a mix of awe and disbelief. It wasn't often that someone like Miranda, the epitome of success, spoke to him with such sincerity. He wanted to protest, to say that he didn't need a reward, that helping people was its own reward. But something in her gaze stopped him. She wasn't offering him charity. She was acknowledging the value of his humanity, the very thing he had always thought was ordinary. As they sipped their coffee, Miranda shared more about her life, her struggles, the pressures of managing a company, and the loneliness that often accompanied success. Jason realized that despite the wealth, she was just as human as he was, with fears, doubts, and desires that were universal. It dawned on him that their encounter wasn't a simple transaction of help and reward. It was a connection between two lives, vastly different yet bound by a shared moment of authenticity. They spoke for hours, the conversation flowing effortlessly, punctuated by laughter, thoughtful pauses, and occasional silences that felt comfortable rather than awkward. Jason found himself opening up about his life, about Emily, about the challenges of raising a child alone after losing the love of his life. Miranda listened intently, her eyes reflecting empathy and understanding. For the first time in a long while, Jason felt truly seen, not as a struggling mechanic or a single dad barely making ends meet, but as a human being capable of compassion, resilience, and love. Before leaving, Miranda reached across the table, placing a hand gently over his. "Jason, I want you to know this isn't just about the money. I want to help you and Emily in ways that will make a real difference, but I want it to be on your terms. No strings attached, I just want to honor what you did." Jason felt a lump in his throat. The weight of her words, the sincerity behind them, was almost overwhelming. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to hope, not just for financial relief, but for the possibility of new beginnings, of doors opening that had once seemed permanently closed. As Jason walked home that evening, Emily running ahead with her laughter filling the street, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He understood now that kindness wasn't just about helping strangers. It was about building bridges, creating connections, and sometimes changing the trajectory of lives, including your own. The flat tire on the roadside had been a small moment, almost invisible in the grand scheme of life, yet it had sparked a chain of events that neither he nor Miranda could have predicted. And as he tucked Emily into bed that night, he whispered a quiet promise to himself. No matter what came next, he would honor the gift of kindness, both given and received, every single day. The days that followed brought unexpected changes to Jason's life. While he tried to maintain the familiar rhythm of work and parenting, he noticed subtle shifts in how he perceived the world around him. The envelope, the check, and Miranda's genuine kindness had awakened something inside him. A renewed belief that life could hold surprises, and that goodness could create opportunities in ways he never imagined. Every morning as he helped Emily get ready for school, he felt a quiet sense of hope bubbling beneath the surface, a spark that had long been dormant under the weight of struggle. One morning, Miranda called again. This time she proposed a meeting at her company's headquarters. Jason hesitated. He was used to garages and parks, not glass towers and boardrooms. But curiosity won over, and he agreed, bringing Emily along. Miranda greeted them warmly, her presence both comforting and commanding. She explained that she wanted to involve Jason in a new project, a community initiative designed to provide support for single parents struggling to make ends meet. "I've seen how much heart you put into your life, Jason," she said. "You understand the daily battles, the small victories. I want you to help shape this program, to guide it with your experience and insight." Jason felt a mix of pride, fear, and disbelief. The opportunity was beyond anything he had ever imagined, yet the sincerity in Miranda's eyes made it clear that this wasn't a gimmick. She wasn't seeking publicity or a feel-good story. She genuinely wanted his voice, his perspective, to make a difference for others like him. Emily, sensing her father's nervous excitement, squeezed his hand and whispered, "Dad, this is amazing. You deserve this." Her words filled him with warmth and determination. As the project meetings began, Jason found himself navigating unfamiliar territory. He learned about budgets, proposals, community outreach, and the complexities of running an initiative at scale. Yet, with each passing day, he realized that his life experience, the struggles, sacrifices, and resilience he had developed, was invaluable. Miranda encouraged him, guiding him gently but allowing him to lead in areas where he excelled. It became clear that their partnership was built not on money or hierarchy, but on mutual respect and shared purpose. At home, Emily noticed the changes in her father. He was more energetic, more optimistic, and more engaged with her world. Bedtime stories became longer and filled with laughter, their small apartment buzzing with a sense of hope that hadn't been there in years. Jason also noticed his own self-worth growing. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was contributing, creating, and inspiring. The envelope on his kitchen table, once a symbol of disbelief, had become a symbol of possibility. One rainy afternoon, as Jason and Emily were leaving the office, Miranda surprised them with a small gift: tickets to a local theater performance. "Consider this a little reward," she said with a smile. "You've earned it for everything you've done, for every life you're about to touch with this project." Jason was stunned. Even as the practical man inside him protested the extravagance, he realized that this gesture wasn't about luxury. It was about recognition, acknowledgement, and encouragement. Later that night, as Jason tucked Emily into bed, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A flat tire on a roadside, a simple act of helping a stranger, and a genuine moment of human connection had cascaded into opportunities that were transforming their lives. He understood now that kindness was a force far more powerful than money, more influential than luck, and more enduring than fame. It had the ability to build bridges, open doors, and create chains of events that no one could predict. Jason whispered a quiet promise to Emily. "No matter what happens, we'll keep helping people just like we did for Miranda, because that's the true reward." Emily smiled sleepily, clutching her father's hand, unaware of the ripple effect their lives had created, yet feeling its warmth. Outside, the rain continued to fall, glistening against the streetlights as if celebrating the extraordinary journey of ordinary people who chose to do the right thing. And deep down, Jason knew that their story was far from over. It was only just beginning, with lessons of kindness, courage, and unexpected fortune waiting around every corner. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of activity, excitement, and unexpected growth for Jason and Emily. The community project with Miranda flourished quickly, and Jason found himself stepping into a role he never imagined he could fill. He wasn't just a single dad scraping by anymore. He was a mentor, a leader, and a voice for other struggling parents. Every meeting, every planning session, and every outreach event reinforced a truth he had always known but never fully realized. The smallest acts of kindness can ripple far beyond the moment, touching lives in ways that no one can predict. One Saturday morning, as Jason and Emily were setting up for a local charity fair organized by the project, Miranda approached them with a radiant smile. "Jason, Emily, I have a little surprise for you," she said, handing them an envelope. Jason hesitated for a moment, but Emily's eyes sparkled with curiosity and excitement. When he opened it, he discovered tickets for a family trip, plane tickets, hotel reservations, and passes to explore a city they had only ever dreamed of visiting. Jason was speechless. The gesture wasn't about luxury. It was about providing memories, opportunities, and experiences that he wanted Emily to have. As they prepared to leave for their trip, Jason reflected on how far their lives had come. He thought back to the day he stopped to help Miranda with her flat tire, to the simple act of extending a hand without expecting anything in return. That single moment had set off a chain reaction that transformed their lives, proving that kindness is never wasted. It wasn't just the money, the opportunities, or the trips that mattered. It was the way human connection could bridge gaps, create hope, and inspire growth in ways neither party could have imagined. During their trip, Jason and Emily explored museums, parks, and bustling streets, soaking in the world around them with wide-eyed wonder. Each moment was a lesson in gratitude, humility, and joy. Jason realized that wealth, comfort, and material things were temporary, but the impact of kindness, the bonds forged through empathy, and the ripple effects of good deeds were eternal. Emily, experiencing this new world, learned alongside him. discovering that generosity and compassion are treasures far richer than any money could buy. Before they returned home, Miranda invited them to her office once more. She had something important to share. "Jason," she began, "your dedication, your heart, and your resilience have inspired me more than you know. I want to make this permanent. I want to invest in you and Emily's future. Not because you need charity, but because you've shown what's possible when someone acts with integrity and kindness. Consider this a partnership, a shared journey of growth and impact." Jason felt tears prick at his eyes. He realized that this partnership wasn't about being given a handout. It was about being recognized, supported, and trusted to build something meaningful with the resources and opportunities now at his disposal. As they drove back home, Emily nestled against his shoulder. Jason felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Life hadn't magically become perfect. It still had challenges, responsibilities, and obstacles. But now they faced them with new strength, hope, and possibilities. He understood that the universe often rewards courage, compassion, and the simple choice to do good, even when no one is watching. The flat tire, the roadside encounter, and the envelope of gratitude had all led to a life richer in meaning, love, and connection than he ever imagined possible. That night, as Jason tucked Emily into bed, he whispered, "Remember, sweetheart, kindness is never wasted. One small act can change lives, maybe even ours." Emily smiled sleepily, holding his hand. "I'll remember, Dad." Outside, the city lights shimmered, echoing the journey of a struggling single dad who chose to help a stranger, and in doing so, discovered that life has a way of rewarding those who act with a pure heart. Closing reminder. If you were inspired by Jason and Emily's story, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Tales Live for more heartwarming stories of real-life kindness and unexpected miracles. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that good deeds always come back in beautiful ways.